Okay, so I am going to call this December 22nd meeting of capital planning to order today at 6:33. I'm Anna Crane. I am chair and I am present. I'm not sure if we're supposed to do a verbal roll call.
Eloise Sauls here.
Perfect.
John
Yes.
Nevretta here.
Okay.
Great. And I think the first thing on our agenda is just to approve minutes if we have any. Do we have any minutes to approve?
I don't.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. Moving on. We'll postpone that. And then we just have to review requests. So I assume Chief Galvin, you're here to talk to us about your requests.
I am, and I think it's pretty straightforward this year. So you got two requests from me. The first being the police cruiser. So that would be a replacement, kind of the replacement schedule we've been on. The current cruiser that it will replace has, it's getting close to 110,000 miles now. So it'll definitely be 120 or 120 plus by the time it's due for replacement. One thing I can say, we've kind of been in this rotation of a 5-year replacement schedule for each vehicle, and the last two have been hybrids, and this would be the third hybrid we've been adding. And actually, with the operating budget this year, there was actually a reduction in gallons of fuel that we'd be purchasing for FY22. So the introductions of the hybrids have been working in that respect. The other thing with it actually is it's actually going to be slightly cheaper than the vehicle that we just purchased. The bid process that the two bid groups that we use are the Greater Boston Police Council or the MAPC. The bids actually came in lower for FY22. So that will so it'll be about $1,000 less than the vehicle we just purchased. And the second request is for the public safety radio system. And the quote that I supplied you, so roughly $310,000, is for a total replacement of the system. This would be 100% funded through the gift account that was created, the gift that came to us from the apartments down at Riverbridge. And so there would be no tax money spent on this. The 310 is still a rough estimate. We're still trying to work out a few details. If you look at that quote, it includes the cost of the tower. I'm currently in some preliminary talks with actually a couple of groups in that area to try and eliminate needing the need for that tower. So I've talked with the hotel. They're not too keen on putting any equipment on the roof, but also I'm in talks with DCU. The location of their building in Marlborough, both the operations center and the parking garage would be perfect locations to locate some equipment on the roof. So the hope is that we can actually even pare down that.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
You got very
We
quiet.
Did we call 911?
look at that.
There
All
he
right,
is.
how much did you get? Because now I'm back. How long was I frozen?
You look like you were ready to take a nap.
So at what point did I freeze? Because it just came up that my internet was unstable. So
Last minute, yeah, 30
um,
seconds, something like that.
okay, so did you get so you got the beginning of the
Yes,
radio system, and so where we kind of stand with that. And I don't know if you caught this portion of it, but we're looking at trying to eliminate the need to build a tower, and so that's a good portion of that quote. And the hope is that with a couple of the entities I'm talking with the hotel and DCU, that we'd be able to eliminate put some of the equipment on the roof of one of their buildings, and that would eliminate the need for us to purchase the tower and install the tower. And there's a lot of other expenses that aren't in that quote with the tower and some of the foundation and work that maybe as Dave has joined us, that Dave would be able to help with. But we have to kind of look at that and hopefully not have to build that, because that would save us a substantial amount of money. and allow us to have some reserves from that gift account to do radio system maintenance over the next several years. So I think that's it.
Does it have to be on a building?
So no, so it would either be on a building or on a tower. So we have two sites now for our radio system. One is at Coburn Road and the other at Taylor Road.
Correct.
So when we received this gift from the apartments, part of it is to meet part of the code, the building code, and they were allowed to. We purchased some temporary equipment with the money that they donated to allow the radio system to work within the buildings there. But what we would need to do is locate some equipment in that vicinity, in the South Berlin area, to allow the system to work properly. So it would either be located on a tower or on a rooftop. But with the rooftop location, because it's lower than what a tower would be, we need to have line of sight to Coburn Road or to Taylor Road, or if we potentially moved our equipment to the water tower at Highland Commons. So if you stand in the parking garage at the DCU operations center, at Banner Road, you can actually see the tower at Coburn Road. So we have definite line of sight there, which would allow that location to function without building a tower. The question is going to be in the preliminary discussions I have with them, if there would be an ongoing cost, if we would have to lease space for them, or if they would be willing to donate space to the municipality for the system. My hope is that they're going to be willing to work with us, because it would be the hotel, in the discussions I've had with the hotel, they have a very definite idea of what the aesthetics of the hotel have to be, and there's concerns of antennas being on the roof and what that would do to their Marriott plan of what the hotel is supposed to look like. Where at DCU, it's kind of trees already and other things that really, they didn't make the roof pretty, kind of like the hotel tried to do. So there'd be hopefully less restriction there. And knowing that they're already a 24/7 operations center with all sorts of backup power there, it's kind of a logical choice for us if they're willing to work with us. And again, it's very preliminary. I haven't kind of gotten to the level that I need to be to get definitive answers from them yet. I think that's it, unless anyone has any other questions.
When will you know the most tentative cost?
So for the radio, that's going to come down to the final decision on locations of if we have to build a tower, and if it's going to go on a rooftop. So that's going to be down the road as we move. But like I said, the one good thing is this is already an account that's available. That Margaret, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that doesn't require a town meeting appropriation.
Does not.
And it would not
It's
affect.
because it's specifically for this purpose.
Right, and also would not affect anyone's tax bills.
And is it currently accounted for these funds in, Margaret, the total that you've given us so far, or is this sort of extraneous from what we have already?
This is extraneous, but Chief did note that it would be coming from another source. So
Yep.
This is that other source that he was referring to.
Okay. Cool. Anybody else?
On the hotel, could it be put in the back of the hotel?
Well, the problem is yes, there's a front and a back, but they kind of have their set plan for aesthetics. And it's, even if you're driving down, no matter what side of the hotel you drive on, they have a plan on what it's supposed to look like. If it backed up to a wooded area, it might be different. But again, they're still willing to talk, but they actually had to put up a couple of antennas for their fire alarm system.
Yeah.
And they weren't very happy about having to do that. And that was something they had to do for their own equipment. So this would be something that they would be doing a favor to us and allowing us to do.
You can't put it along the cell towers?
So we would. So the two existing locations are the cell towers at Taylor Road and Coburn Road. The problem is in that southern part of town, there aren't any cell towers to locate the equipment on. So that's one of our problems, is that area and the Solomon Pond Mall. Our radios do not work really, they work a little bit in Sears, but once you get further into the mall, our radios don't work at all. That's one thing that this tower location is going to help.
If they were to host a tower or something, would we give them a little tax break?
Well, if it's DCU, they're in Marlboro, so they don't pay us anything yet. I don't know that. That would be something, I guess it's above my pay grade. If there was a negotiation like that would have to occur.
I know, but that's right down where Banador is too.
Correct. And if we
And
were to
that is
build-
in Berlin.
yeah. And if we were to build a tower, they actually, the kind of the corner of their parking lot is a prime location. Unfortunately, how things have changed with negotiations with marijuana dispensaries. If we were on the leading edge of this, the towns seem to be given a little bit more leeway in how they were able to negotiate, and they got things in excess of kind of what the law allows. But I think when you look at negotiations and the negotiations the town did with the dispensary that's going to happen there, they stayed within the state guidelines. So, it would have been nice, getting in early to say, hey, listen, we need this. Could you do this as part of your dispensary? But that wouldn't be an option. We'd have to work with the property owner down there and discuss, options, whether it would be a lease of land or, if the town was willing to offer a tax break.
Or Indian Head Farm?
There's some issues with the farm. Tim and I have actually walked some of the area. A better possible location would be in the River Run area. And it's what we have to look at there is the other costs to do that in terms of getting electricity there and emergency power and things like that. There are some potential locations on that side near the ropes course that's here that could be an option. So we've been exploring a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, I have a question. I've asked some already, but so is there a public safety, would DCU see a public safety benefit by you putting the tower there?
So potentially, so they are in the Assabet Public Safety District, which has a kind of a mutual response for Berlin and Marlboro. So having, we could be the primary responder to an incident in their building. And right now, I haven't really even been in their operation facility. I would question how our radio system would work in their building where it doesn't work in the Solomon Pond Mall just a short distance down the road. So there could be a potential that if we were the initial, God forbid, an active shooter or something of that nature occurred on their property, we could be the initial primary responder, and we may have a deficiency there. On the fire end, the fire could be coming in with an ambulance, and we have a deficiency there. So that is a potential talking point as I continue to try and work my way up the ladder to the right people.
I have one last question. Will this communication be available to all of our public safety?
So so the initial estimate is for police, fire, and EMS. My hope is that if we don't need to do the tower, that we would also be able to upgrade the highway equipment, get highway on all three towers, and have a much more robust system for highway to talk, and also be a backup system for police and fire.
Okay, thank you.
Is that the end of questions for Chief Galvin? Sounds like it. Okay. Who wants to go next?
Flip a coin, Dave or Chief? Dave? Oh, Chief, can't hear you. Chief, can't hear you, Chief. Chief, can you log off and then try to get in again? Maybe that would help. Sometimes that happens.
Well, then can we talk to Dave Smith while that's happening? I don't,
Let's talk. What do you want to talk about?
did you submit something for the capital planning?
Yes.
Well, then that's what we'll talk about.
What do you want to bring up first?
Yeah. How about that
What is
bucket
your-
truck?
What is your priority is what I
Oh,
want.
there you go.
My priority?
Yeah,
I don't know as though I really have any, to be honest with you. I'll work with whatever the town wants to give me. You want to start with the buildings? We can talk about the roof at 23 Linden.
okay.
That's, I guess more of a priority there though is the HVAC system that failed last summer. That really needs to be replaced.
Is that not an FY21 thing that we already approved, or is that separate?
Through the chair, the capital planning committee is aware of this, but this happened more recent than last year's rounds of capital planning requests. So you haven't voted on this yet. I can offer that the select board would be in favor of adding this to the current year's list of capital requests because of the urgency and the need to move quickly on the procurement to try to get the unit on the roof.
Okay.
Do you have a ballpark price?
It's attached to the request.
Yes, it's $60,000 to replace the system.
Do you know if there's any energy grants available for it?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any.
That's a great question for the Energy Committee.
Right.
I should send a, that's something Jason and Stephen might be able to look into.
Mm-hmm. Or Kelly Brown.
Who will be attending your meeting in January.
So I have a question about construction. It's on the roof. While it's in the repair stages, does it make sense to replace the roof that is underneath it?
So that was talked about. There's going to be a survey done on the roof as part of the grant money that Margaret and Peg secured from Maya. We'd know better. The last time they were on the roof was 2 years ago, and they said it probably had another 5 years to go. So knowing this, when I got the estimate from the HVAC company, I asked them what was involved to remove the unit should we put it on the roof, and then in 5 years have to take it off to replace the roof. And although they said there's an additional cost, it's really not the end of the world. They get a crane, the unit basically plugs in. It's like a giant air conditioner, as it was explained to me, and they set it on the ground. The roof is replaced, and then they put the unit back. So does it make sense to do the roof? Probably, but with such a large expense facing us, in the same year, maybe once the roof survey comes back, which they should be doing, they were supposed to do it last week, but the snowstorm put that off. If they're telling us, listen, this roof is in failure, you've got a year to go, I would suggest that we look at it seriously about replacing it. But if they tell us that we've got 3 to 5 years, what do we really have? Can we squeeze 8 to 10 out of it and roll the dice and go with it? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I believe the roof was installed in like 1994,
Yeah.
and it was a 20-year roof, in which case
Correct.
it owes us nothing.
That's correct.
Dave, did we ever get a quote on that one, on that rubber membrane roof?
I believe so. Well, if not, as part of the survey, they'll give us one anyway.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Do we have the survey rescheduled, or is it something that now has to be put off to the spring and the snow melt?
No, their intention is to come. Like I said, they were scheduled last week and the snow came, and I just haven't heard back from them to reschedule. But I would anticipate within the next 2 weeks they should be there.
Okay.
Dave, what was
Okay,
the last price that you did get for the roof?
I'm not even going to begin to guess because I don't recall.
Okay,
Maybe I can, if it's something from last year, maybe I can do some searching here.
okay. Maybe Dave, while Margaret's looking for that, if nobody has more questions about the roof, maybe we could talk about what's second on your list.
So the other thing involves the roof at
Okay.
on the public safety side. So the roof on the administration side, the town office side is rubber. It's a one-piece membrane, and the roof on the public safety building is actually shingles. And once again, that's a 20-year roof, which was installed roughly 22 years ago. If it's not in failure yet, it's sprung a few leaks here and there, but it's mostly related to ice dams. If I had to say, you know, it would probably go another year or possibly two, but it needs to be on the horizon.
Okay. Have you had a quote for replacement?
I do have a quote for replacement. $96,800.
Okay. And that's just this shingles,
That's
not the
correct.
rubber membrane.
That's
Okay.
correct. That's just the roof over police and fire.
Okay.
what age of the shingles would they be putting on? Another 20-year or a 30-year? Because your biggest cost is labor.
So I don't see it specified in their quote.
Okay,
Probably the cheapest one.
probably.
Okay. No other questions? We move on to the next item on your list, Dave?
Okay, so those are the only two items I had for buildings.
Okay.
The other items we have are a bucket truck so that we could do the tree work that we're trying to get accomplished. We have like 900 trees that are currently dead, need to be removed. So I think long term, even though it's a lot of money, it would be feasible for the town to invest in a truck. It's something that would last the town, the way the guys keep equipment maintained, 20 years or more. As opposed to right now, we hire a company that comes in and we pay $1,500 a day for the truck and operator, which it works out okay now. We're getting rid of some of the hazard trees, but long term, it's going to get pretty costly at this rate.
Do you
So
have
Dave,
to
if that
hire-
option, oh, I'm sorry,
Excuse
go
me.
ahead.
Yeah, do you have to hire another person to run this thing or?
Well, so we would be able to do it in-house now, but that's a whole nother thing that's going to be coming up. At some point, the town is going to be faced with having to put an additional employee on at the highway department. We just can't keep up with the workload we have with the 4 guys that we have. So I'm not saying it's going to happen now or next year, but it's something that's going to happen.
Yeah, which is bigger expense than the truck itself. Probably.
Oh, yeah. Additionally, with that truck, well, either way, the wood chipper that we have, this kind of goes in conjunction with the truck, but we kind of need it anyway. Our current wood chipper is a 1996 model. Once again, the town's very fortunate that they have guys that take care of the equipment, but it is starting to fail. Breakdowns are becoming more and more regular. In addition to that, with the amount of tree work that we have facing us, it's only a matter of time before the chipper that we do have is not going to be able to be repaired any longer. And a new chipper is roughly $80,000.
Is it something you could get secondhand?
Chipper, generally used chippers are in the same shape of the one that we have now. it's not a bucket truck we could get secondhand and save a lot of money. I mean, it's not something the bucket truck doesn't get used to the extent the chipper does. The chipper gets fired up in the morning, runs all day, and it does a lot of work. Whereas the bucket truck doesn't necessarily run, a full 8-hour day. But used chippers that are in decent shape are very hard to come by.
Right, but given the state of the economy, I just was curious if you saw that they were starting to be available.
Yes, it's pretty rare. Actually, I've been looking for one for myself. And when they come up, usually they're in pretty tough shape. But once again,
Okay.
the bucket trucks are available used. The problem is procurement and trying to buy something. A used bucket truck, $40,000 range, the town would probably get, I'm going to guess, 12 or 15 years out of it. But it's difficult to buy something like that with the procurement laws.
Yep.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, I don't see anything with the roof quote for the town office side of
No,
the building.
I don't know. Maybe, Margaret, maybe I didn't get one, but I thought they had
That's
included that.
That's fine.
The other thing we had on our list is a replacement. It's a scheduled replacement for one of our front end loaders. The current machine is a 2000, so it's 21 years old now. And once again, with the crew that you have down there, they've done an excellent job maintaining it, but it's also getting to the point where it's starting to have failure on a regular basis. And that is $175,000 I have a quote for.
So the loader is an issue. The loader is an issue because with the safety. So Dave, I don't know how much you want to get into the DLS coming out and the OSHA or
No,
the state requirements.
Well, so we did have an issue with some modifications that were done to a few of the attachments on the loader, but that doesn't really affect the operation of the main machine. It's just it was an attachment to the machine. But those two machines, we have two, they're identical. One's a 2000 and one's a 2007, I believe. They're extensively used for snow removal operations. I mean, we do use them throughout the summer, but we really rely on those two machines during snowstorms.
What sort of issues are you seeing with the current 2000 loader?
Coolers, the transmission cooler, oil cooler, radiators. We're starting to have one of them's having some issues with the transmission where it doesn't want to go into gear right away. You have to let it warm up quite a bit. That's actually been a few years. They've been nursing that along.
Okay.
Is that the Volvo machine?
They're both Volvos. They're nice machines. It's just they're it's just like I say, the 2000 machine is nearing the end of its useful life cycle. But if we were to stay the both machines, if we were to go with a like machine, which I have a quote for, the attachments interchange, so nothing on that end of it. There won't be any really additional expenses because we would keep the attachments that we have.
Is there a trade-in or a sale value on the 2000 loader that we have?
They gave me an estimate at the time of a trade-in value of $15,000.
And so that 175 includes the minus 15?
No, it would be 160 plus the trade. But I think it's a little more of a hassle. But I think if we were to put that thing on Municipid or put it out to an auction site, I would think we should get probably in the $25,000 range for that machine, if not maybe a little bit more.
Okay.
I mean, obviously the dealer's going to take it in trade, and they want to make some money on it too. So that's there's some room in there.
And Dave, what's the cost? What's the surplus value on the wood chipper?
Margaret, they didn't give me, or whoever was asking that question, they didn't give me trade-in value, but I estimated it at somewhere around $2,000. It doesn't have a lot of value because of the age of the machine. But once again, that's another thing. If we would have put that on Municipal or an auction site, we might get $6,000 or $8,000 for it.
Okay.
You know, on a trade, once again, the dealers really don't want a machine that's that old, so they're not going to be very kind to you.
Oh, these are big numbers for all the department. Can we afford all this stuff?
Yeah, well, that's it.
I know.
The
That's
stuff
our-
we play with isn't cheap.
Yeah.
Are you gonna do the hot top this year too?
Yes, we are. For the parking lot, you mean?
Oh,
Oh, usually
no.
don't you have a hot top number?
Oh, I was asked to not include that, so I did not include that.
Oh, okay.
however, that's still on the table for FY21 because it was previously approved by Capital Planning Committee and then just deferred from the annual town meeting.
Oh, okay. So we wouldn't be looking at any FY22 hot top, but FY21 we would.
Correct.
Okay. But the parking lot hot top is all, it's all in your
funded.
hands now, right? Yeah,
That's funded, correct.
okay.
So question, I'm just thinking out loud here on bucket truck. So there was, okay, so there was a $60,000 recommendation from the Capital Planning Committee that was another item that was deferred from the annual town meeting. So that in essence is still on the table, the $60,000 for the current year. Now, I'm just wondering about various options here. I know Capital Planning Committee needs to decide on the bucket truck itself, but is there an opportunity here to either apply that $60,000 toward the purchase of a bucket truck or spend the $60,000 for an initial investment on contracted services in FY21 and then appropriate funds after this initial round of trees come down for a bucket truck to continue the maintenance on the trees? So in other words, the contracted service would take care of the, well, I don't know, maybe the trees most in need or most at risk. And then the bucket truck could, with the existing staffing, could pick up where that leaves off. And the bucket truck would also take care of the LED streetlight fixtures. So with proper staff training, the bucket truck would be utilized for the streetlights as well. I'm just trying to put options out there to bundle it all together.
Well, if you're asking for my opinion, the best way for the town to use its money would be to purchase a used truck in the $40,000 range. And we would be able to do, even if we bought a truck, we're still not gonna be able to do 100% of the trees. There are certain trees that are gonna require crane work. But I would say that we would be in the 80 to 85% range of what we could do, as well as the streetlights. You know, it certainly would be nice to have a brand new truck, but I don't think it warrants spending that kind of money for a new truck when we could get a truck that would do the same service, and you know, maybe we'd only get 3/4 of the lifespan out of it, but it would be a tremendous savings.
So
Yeah.
what's the likelihood of finding that bucket truck?
Very high. I've been looking there. They're out there. They're all over the place.
And the cost range would be?
From what I've been looking at, roughly a $40,000 truck is something that is ready to go to work, not something that you have to put a bunch of time and money into to get it to workable condition.
So a $40,000 used truck and an $80,000 brand new chipper
That's,
would be your
that would,
best recommendation?
yes. Only because you're just not going to find a used chipper. It's just not going to happen. I don't know why that is, but there are trucks. Of course, the bucket trucks, a lot of them are used for utilities, so they're not really doing tree work with them. And they're a lot of the utilities, they have pretty deep pockets, and the trucks are just on a rotational replacement plan. So when the time comes up, they get rid of the truck and get a new one. We don't have that luxury.
Dave, what kind of safe, well, it's hard to know what you're gonna need for safety equipment and things like that with the bucket truck. But you'll need you'll need braces and things like that in order to be safe, right? So you need some equipment to go with it.
Yeah, there's not outrageous though. I would think in the $3,000 to $5,000 range, you probably set the truck up with enough safety equipment to work.
What about insurance for employees now going up and cutting down trees and that sort of thing?
Good question.
Yes, that is a good question that I have not asked our insurer yet, but I'm more than happy. I'm more than happy to reach out and ask them. I mean, there are plenty of municipalities that have bucket trucks and crews that operate them. So I'm sure they can give us an idea of what the insurance coverages would need to be.
Great. Any other questions for Dave?
No, that's,
I shocked you enough. Sorry, it's just the way it is.
I understand.
Yeah.
This has happened before.
Yes, and unfortunately, I mean, if we don't stay on top of some of these things, it just gets kicked down the road a little bit more, and now we're faced with even more equipment failures and purchases. So,
Right. Right.
Well, thank you, Dave.
oh, thank you.
Yeah. Definitely.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
How about the heating system in your building? It's all electric. Well, that's a separate discussion.
It is all electric.
Yeah. Okay.
Could
I
be.
know that. That's a
So
good question.
it's a, Eloise, I don't know if you want to speak to that from the Energy Committee's perspective?
There were members of the Energy Committee at that time that only voted for it because they thought it was going to have solar on it. And they were sadly disappointed to find out that it got traded off. I personally think there would be support in town to do something solar with the town barn.
Yes.
And if we could do something like that, that may free up money, but that might be over a multi-year and it might not help right this year. But it's something we continue to look for.
Okay.
The town received a grant that the Energy Committee is working on. The grant is to contract with a consultant to look at the potential for solar, either ground mount or roof mount. Unfortunately, it doesn't extend to other renewables. I got that confirmation today from Green Communities, but the town will at least now be able to move forward exploring that possibility at the highway barn again.
Okay.
Great. Okay, let's move on to fire. What's your number one priority, Chief?
Good evening, everybody. How are you?
Good evening.
Can you hear me
Your sound's
okay?
working.
Yep.
Yeah, it's nice to see
Thank you,
everybody.
Dave.
My number one priority is replacing the car 2, which is the pickup. This is the 3rd year. It was done 1 year prior to my arrival here. We did it last year. That's the kind of vehicle that a fire department uses every day. Like I said, 3rd year in it, and not a day goes by that we don't need to use that in some capacity. The other thing that it gives us is a little bit of operational redundancy, because right now I have like a 16 Expedition with, I think, just over 91,000 miles. And if that goes down, the only thing left to do is drive a Kubota tractor or drive a brush truck that's got made as a brush truck. So it gives us some operational capability, and it'll get used at night for the, we have an officer on duty at night that's tasked with 2 nights on, 4 nights off. There's 3 of them. And he would have, he and or she would have the ability to come in and utilize that vehicle in my little bit of travel from Hopkinton to get up to the Berlin. It would fill in my capacity until I arrived on scene to help them. And it would make our operation a lot smoother in during the nighttime hours. So, but it's a vehicle that, like I said, I can't impress upon you enough how many times it could be used. And right now we send the ambulance, or we send my car and fill up the back and with supplies here or there. When we were running PPE at MEMA from the cache during the height of the COVID, we were jamming it in my car, jamming it in the ambulance to get it back to the station. So there's that's my highest priority right there, and number one. And is there any questions for that from you, your committee on that?
My first question would be, what is the current status of the current pickup truck?
Okay, the current
doing?
one was a, let me just see the year here. That was received, I think it's a 78, and it was got surplus from the military, has 78, just shy of 80,000 miles. The transmission is gone. When you pick up the floor mats on both sides, you can look at the road. It's kind of like the Fred Flintstone vehicle that you could get the holes there on the floorboards. And it's not even worth much. We looked at it to as even trade in. People are only going to say, oh, it's only worth like $300 or $500, right in that.
Is that one of?
So it's
Excuse me,
not
Chief,
really even worth that much. So it's like, they looked at there was one company in town up on Coburn Road that looked at it and gave us that, tell us what it's worth without outside look with, no, so that's what we got there. So I think it was 300 from them. And someone says, oh, you can get a little bit more, maybe 500 for it, but we're right in that window there, 3 to 5.
Excuse me,
Yes.
Chief, because that's
Yes, ma'am.
military surplus, is that even allowed to be traded in, or does that have to be, do you have to go through the federal procurement and for disposal on that one?
I'm not sure on that one. I know that
Okay.
the other military surplus one we got needs to go back to the military.
Okay.
That's a good question, Margaret. And it's like, I think that either way, it doesn't matter, because it either goes back to the military or we get $300 to $500 for it. I think that just was used primarily as a price tag to say, just to kind of, it's worth, you know what I mean? It's not worth much. It sits out in the parking lot. And until we just need to move it soon. You know what I mean? It takes up space when Dave's crew is trying to clean snow and things like that. So it's like, yeah, but that's in very, very poor condition. I would give that, rate that an F. You know what I mean? If you had to. So it's like, I've never seen one in my 40-something years with 3 fire departments in that bad of shape. So that's simple.
So why don't you just get rid of it?
We can, yeah, but we just have to have a mechanism. And like Margaret had asked a really good question, can I do it through the back to surplus, give it back to the government, or do I need to? Can I just go and get $300 or $500 from a junkie for it and check over to Margaret? So it's like, yep, we can move. We can definitely move on that, and it's like just is there still? So yep,
Should
it's an eyesore.
Should we stop insuring it and get it, get the registration taken off it because it's just,
We've already done that. I think.
oh, good.
Working with Mary on the last round with the insurance stuff is that I'm pretty sure that was removed. I'm not 100%, but I'm in like the 95 area. So I think that's already been done.
Okay,
And it's like, yeah.
that's good.
Once again, is that something that could be picked up secondhand?
What's that, another truck?
Yeah,
Yeah, but the thing about secondhand is like things, it's challenging in the municipal level to pick up the secondhand things because they become available and we can't act on it really quick to get stuff. You know what I mean? We have to procure some money, it has to be voted on at town meeting, and then you got to shop. You can't shop till you have the money. And if you, I guess that's maybe a way to do it.
I mean, that's what Dennis Bartlett used to do.
Yep, I don't know, yeah.
He authorized, as long as the town authorized it, and he said, hey, I'm only getting a used one.
Yep.
You know, so-
Yeah, and
So
again, I
if-
look at it like it's a 15-year investment when we buy one. And if you get a used one, the investment time, period is way lower. So it's like, yep.
Well, I understand that, but from what I've heard, this is gonna be a horrendous year.
Yep, I understand that there's many things on the capital list and I can go through and prioritize I can only speak of my articles and I can only prioritize my articles that were put forth to your committee. And this is the
Correct.
top one that I have.
Okay.
And excuse me, Chief, to Eloise's question about used, and to your point about procurement, it's absolutely true. If we can't get something quickly from state bid after already having the appropriation in place, it's going to require the bid process or an RFP, which takes time. But if there is a vendor on state bid that actually does deal in used vehicles, that's something we could look into anyway. I'm just not familiar with that enough at this point. I'd have to look into that.
Yeah, I've never heard of that program. It could be available. I just know the state bid list that I've always gone by for many years purchasing vehicles it was always, I never ever remember hearing or seeing used vehicles on it. You know what I mean? But could be, I guess.
We can look, Chief,
Yep,
see if there's anything out there.
I'll turn the spotlight on tomorrow.
No other questions for the chief? If so, I'll ask him to talk about number 2 on his list.
Okay, my number 2 priority is one of the things that most impressed me when I came to Berlin was the open fields, the forest, and how much the town, conservation land, planning, whoever owns it. I know there's a lot of different entities that have open space here, but I was impressed by the open space. I've done some calls up on top of Mount Pisgah, got a good look at that. I get into the 40 caves a little bit one day, but not all the way in, so I'm not totally familiar with that, but I've just been impressed from day one. And I kind of like, when I evaluate what I need to be operationally ready for the town, we don't have any capability operationally to go into the woods and seriously deal with a brush fire, forest fire. That's been on my mind for a little while, and it was kind of driven home when we did the MVP, the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness study. And that was one of the common things with the climate change, things getting drier, having droughts, which we saw some this summer. Is that going to be something that negatively impacts the community, is having some fires without the ability to handle them in the early stage, and then they kind of like grow. I'm not trying at all to say it's going to be like out west, because it's not. Completely different type of stuff. But to burn out some of this like really beautiful countryside you got is like, that doesn't sit good with me as a fire chief. You know what I mean? You want something, if something is on fire, you want to be able to aggressively go at it, contain it, extinguish it, go home and be ready for the next one. So I kind of like looked around and I looked at some trucks and I saw a couple of trucks that you could get in the 130 to 160,000 range, but I wasn't really, you know what I mean? That to me was a lot of money in a tough year, like someone said earlier, talking about the pickup truck. So I went back to my roots, and I've had some experience with 3 vehicles that came from military surplus. There was a 56 weapons carrier. There was a 78 deuce and a half, and there was like a 98 or 99 5-ton. And we took military surplus out of, for no cost to the town, you get the truck, it's given to you, and you make it into a brush truck. And, oh, thank you, Margaret. Thank you. And that's a M1078 chassis that Margaret just held a picture up to. That's a smaller of the three, but it's a really good start on a brush fire. And I looked at it and I took my experience, and I've physically been involved in putting brush trucks together myself in the department where I came from, doing the welding, making the tank, putting the pump on, doing the piping, all that stuff. And I said that some of that we'll be able to do in-house also, but I priced the money that you see, that 55,786 would provide a tank, would provide some lighting and communications equipment on the truck, would provide the equipment, the tank, the pump, some storage capacity on it for the equipment that you use in the woods. And it's also made, so it's just not for brush fires. There's a little bit of design into it where, if we had a bad winter storm, like we kind of like had a pretty good test a week and a half ago, whenever we had that one. But I mean, something that we can't make driveways because of the snow. This is the kind of truck that you could kick up a driveway, no matter what the snowfall was, get in and get some water on a fire. And it's going to be made so that you can run 1 or 2 lines off it at a fire. And it's safe for the guys to use in one of those severe weather events. That would be like kind of like a good trump card to have in our back pocket, to use that, send that out. And when the snow's deep, it's got high ground clearance. If it's a water condition high someplace and you got to get in, move some people out, it's made for that. You know what I mean? It's got really good ground clearance, and you can drive it through 2 or 3 feet of water. So it's like, it has a lot of uses just outside having the forest fire. But I wanted to kind of bring that to you by thinking outside the box and say, we don't need to buy a fancy truck, get one that's used from the government. And because it goes in the woods, it might not even be painted. It might still be the olive drab or the brown color you see coming back from the Middle East with our troops now. And it's like, and put the equipment in there. If it gets a little dent in the woods, it's like, gets a little dent in it. You know what I mean? So it's like used. I've had tons and personally hundreds of hours in these trucks. And it's like over the years, and it's like, they really stand up well to the rough terrain, and you got some really rough terrain here. It's beautiful, but it's rough. And it's like, and so this would help us kind of have some initial protection for that, all those nice pieces of woodland you got, and forests, and in the highlands you got. And it's like on Pisgah there. And I think it would be a really, really valuable tool to have that operational flexibility with that particular vehicle. And I kind of dumb the money down as much as possible with the used chassis from the military, and just get some basic equipment on it: pump, tank, a storage cabinet, and then a little partition where you could hold some hose. And we're going to take used equipment that we already have, a generator, and put on some lights, so that if we're working at night, the stuff is already in the cages in the cellar of the town hall there, in the dungeon down there, kind of, so to speak. And we could put that on there in-house and get those fired up. And so that we can help safety for the guys. And it's always nice going into a fire after dark when it's all lit up, but it's tough once you put the fire out and you got time to go home. It's a tough place to be. You got to be careful, and the safety factor you got to have there. So it's like, just gives us some capability. And that's one of the things I see. I look at my fleet and I say, that's one thing that we're kind of weak on. We have a brush truck that is good for roadside fires, and it's good for going off road in somebody's field, but not good once you jump over the stone wall and get into the woods. And this truck is made to go on a cart path, go up the side of something. They're very dependable mechanically. And it's like, and I've had really good luck with them over the years, and it's a really affordable way to gain some capability to protect your wildlands. And it's like, I know I see so many people talk about that in Berlin. It's like, it brings a smile to my face, because that's near and dear. I'm like a woods guy. I like being in the woods all the time. And when I hear people talk like that, it makes me feel good. So it's like, they want to protect like they really enjoy and have invested in their opens and fields and woodlands. So it's like, that's just one way that we could protect that initially before something got big and ran, you know what I mean?
Excuse me, but I don't remember what you said it would cost to outfit a military.
Yep, it's a military 1078 chassis, $55,786 would be it. I could put that on the road with that, and there's some of the work, like the big work of mounting the tank would be like from for where I got the quote, but the other, there's a lot of stuff that we can do ourselves on that to make that, so there's a little bit of savings on the manpower there. So it's like, whatever we can do in-house, we'll do. Whatever the bigger stuff is like, some of the pump stuff would be done where where I got the quote, but it's like, as much as we could do in-house to save money, we would do that.
So roughly 56,000.
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Okay. At this point, I'd like to deal with just round numbers.
Yep, you're fine. I just put in there what I got, and we can round it any way that you want. You know what I mean?
Yep, they've done that before. Okay.
I have one question, Chief. Just one follow-up question. I just want to clarify, or just need clarification. This is an additional piece of equipment. This is not to replace the current forestry truck, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
The current forestry is really good roadside in fields, and if it would actually be a good 1-2 punch if there was a way to get them close together to work, depending on what the terrain was like going in. Like, one would supply water, one could pump it, or they could. This is set up where it can do either supply or pump, so it gives you operational flexibility. So it's like, but they could work together if you could get them together in the woods. You could drop one of those folding tanks down. The big one would empty into it. The little one would pump it, and you run out to the street to get some more. So it's like
A relay.
Yep, we have operational capability,
So
flexibility.
so Chief, just to follow up, what's the remaining life expectancy on that one? That's an 08, correct?
Yeah. You should get, that should be a 15 to 20 year truck for you. That's like a F-550 Ford. Excuse me. But it's not really made to go off because they hung some compartments off it down low that as soon as you go over off road, it's going to catch them and stuff. There should be really, when you design them, there should be nothing below the platform. They put a lot of stuff below the platform where you got to keep it above. So you have, when you're going through the rocks and stumps and stuff like that, going over really slow, that you don't catch the structure of the truck. And it's like, so it's not really, it's okay, but it's not made for going off-road like this, like the military one designed, you know? And it's funny because I designed one identical to it, same body, same truck, put nothing below the body, put everything above, and it will outperform it 10 times. You know what I mean? It's like just how you put that together and where you got to go. And also there's a little bit of skill you got to put in with the people who have driving it. So not anybody is like, it's kind of like one of those things. It's slow and easy with those going in and off, coming in or going out.
Any questions? Okay. Chief Clark, if I can have you, I think you just have one more request, correct?
I do, yeah.
On
It's
your
an
list, or?
ambulance replacement.
Okay. I have to run because my puppy is graduating from puppy class. Right? But unfortunately it's happening at 7, so I'm already pretty late. My husband is sending me angry text messages.
Oh, no.
But I'm gonna mute myself and still listen to you guys. So I would love to hear Chief Clark talk about the third option.
Anna,
and
this
I
is
just
also
won't-
being
I just won't speak
recorded.
about it.
Yes.
Okay.
And this, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you, Anna.
So, but I do have to go. I will be listening. And I will look forward to hearing the details and discussing it further with my committee members.
Yep. Tonight must be puppy night, 'cause that's right, rushed home I was on the road getting one for Marie for a Christmas present. We got a new one.
Really?
Like a, yeah, it's like a 7-week
Oh.
old shepherd. So it's like, and she's like,
Oh,
just came
wow.
through the door. I came through the door and hooked up my computer. So it was like maybe like this big. So it's like,
Oh.
yep, she's pretty cool. So it's like, yep, she kind of likes quiet because she's learning her new house, but no. So the ambulance, a lot of money, right up front with it. They're a 10 to 12-year investment. I thought Margaret had a fantastic idea to split the cost. But to be honest with you, I listened to all the capital. And if there was one that I needed to put off till next year to start the pricing on, I could honestly tell you it would be the ambulance. We can kick the 6A1 another year out. And I know it's going to be 2 years to do it like that. But that's a lot of money, and I hear a lot of capital coming before you people. You know, is there something that the fire department and EMS can do to help that would be to like make that ambulance. It's kind of like Dave said with his personnel. They work really hard to keep them up, keep them running. And it's like, if we can do that with an ambulance and help your committee make some sound decisions financially, we can do that. You know what I mean? But it's like, I talked to 3 fire chiefs, and this is that amount of money there sits, and it's all off the state bid list for the FCAM, the Fire Chiefs Association of Mass ambulance. They already have it all pre-bid, and you just pick the items that you need. And I picked the one that was from the middle to the low side. There's some that are a lot higher, but and so that was the price tag I put on that. They said expect that 310 to 315, and it's like, but they do a lot of things. They fit a lot of equipment in them now that I didn't have when I was like growing up with them. You know what I mean? So it's like it's a lot different ball game now with the and especially if we branched out to ALS in the future of having the available space to carry the ALS equipment. So it's like that was part of looking at the design of the ones that we looked at and the price tags associated with that. So it's like, but Margaret had a really good idea of putting the cost off, do half this year and half next year. If that works with you, we can certainly do that. Or if you need me to, I can certainly put it off for a year. And, you know, I'm very flexible on this. This is the lesser of my 3 priorities. If that helps you, I can do that.
Is there any money saved and put aside for it already?
Not yet.
Would you do a capital debt exclusion?
Probably not, because I don't think it's necessary to put that cost on the taxpayers even for 1 year. So my thought last year, and John, this topic is somewhat new to you. Chief, you might remember this. Last year, we started talking about the possibility of establishing a public safety special stabilization fund where we could actually start programmatically saving for public safety equipment or capital needs through the public safety mitigation revenue sources. So if we could establish that savings mechanism, because there's no place else we could put that money, and DOR does recommend the special stabilization fund. What Chief has suggested could be possible. You could put a portion of that money, which I'm already recommending, if I've recommended kind of cutting back on the Highland Commons public safety mitigation funds or the expenditures, because we just don't know how sustainable this is going to be over a long period of time. But if we could save, what is it, 300? You said $310,000.
Yep.
You know, if we could put 150,000 or 160,000 away in FY22 and come back in FY23 with new Highland Commons public safety mitigation funds and match the balance from what has been saved in the public safety special stabilization fund, you could buy an ambulance, not on the tax, not being borne by the tax levy. So if chief really could wait and the cost could be spread over 2 years, that might be a real possibility. And that's
Well, I
just an
think
example.
it's like I heard someone say, through the CIC here, what I've heard is and we see it every day on the street. I sit in my office and I watch how many people come in and use our food pantry, and I understand what's going on across our whole country. And so if we can help in a little bit like that, you know what I mean? Even a savings of 1 year, it's like that, you got to be part of a team. And sometimes it means like sucking up, take one for the team. And I don't mind doing that on this particular article. We can make 6A1 make it through 2 more years. You know what I mean? It's a little tired, but we can, that's doable. You know what I mean? And I'm not at all afraid to say that. If I didn't think that, I would be honest with you, but I think that we can nurse another year out of that and get that done. So it's like, I'm not uncomfortable with that at all. And I have to give merit to the TA for coming up with the idea to do that. That was all hers, not mine. I can't take any credit for that.
Oh,
So
stop.
it's like, I thought that was a good idea and I could live with that. I could live with putting it off in a year, then we save for 2 years and then get it. So it's like, it only puts it off for a year. So it's like, if that's what needs to be done to help, that's what needs to be done. You can
The
keep
other
that.
thing, the other consideration with this too, is that it wouldn't just be, we hope, it wouldn't just be Highland Commons Public Safety Mitigation Funds. We do hope that the River Bridge, at least the first annual payment, will be rolling in by then, which is $100,000. And we'd be looking to the second payment on the River Bridge Public Safety Mitigation, which, John, just for your information, that's finite. That's a 5-year, $100,000 a year payment that's in the development agreement. So, so expenditures on capital would be an appropriate expense from that as well.
So the first payment was due in November 1st, was it?
It was, and we've been talking to the principals of River Bridge to see what we can do to try to get that payment to the town as soon as possible.
Okay.
Are there any additional questions from the committee that I may help with?
Not from me, thank you.
No, not for me. And Chief, thank you for taking time and talking to me last week.
Yeah, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
No, I
No
mean,
problem.
it's good to, I enjoy when someone comes in like that and we can share the information that we have. I know we're supposed to do it remotely, but we were like doing social distancing and it's like, I was very happy with that. And you get to see firsthand what we talk about and what we, like saw the ambulance and saw the brush truck.
I'm trying to absorb all this stuff coming in, so man,
Yep.
it's a lot of money. Can we afford all this stuff?
Yep.
I know, that's every year like that.
Those are the 3 things I got. And if you have any questions, I'll be more than welcome to try to answer it, whatever you had.
My question is for Margaret. Given the situation, given that you've seen all the requests, going to make a recommendation for some amount of money to come out of the existing stabilization fund.
I am not looking at this point to recommend taking money from the general stabilization fund for the capital budget, only because things are so uncertain on the operational side and we may need to stabilize operations. We just don't know yet, but we do have we do have round numbers. Let's just say to fund the capital budget, we have approximately $527,000 based on the Finance Committee's use of free cash guidelines. I shouldn't say we have it. That's the amount, that's the upper amount that would be available to fund the capital budget. So 527,000. And on the public safety mitigation side, My recommendation at this point would be almost $300,000 of the public safety mitigation funds. So about half of the public safety mitigation funds that we would expect in the coming year. We have not been approached about proposed reductions to the amounts that were agreed to in the development agreements, and I hope that we don't. But we do have to be somewhat conservative. And I think my recommendation would be to apply some of those funds to public safety capital projects, but save another portion of those funds in order to try to conserve them. So about $300,000 on public safety mitigation funds and 527 from free cash. Plus the capital planning committee's recommendation to fund the capital stabilization fund, which was deferred, well, all but $100 was deferred from the annual town meeting. So that would be another capital contribution, but to the capital stabilization fund.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Have you heard anything from Highland Commons? Are they going to challenge the mitigation?
I have not. I've not heard anybody. Nobody has reached out on that. I have not heard that. Not at this point, no.
What about abatements? Where do we stand with that?
I believe the assessors are working on some sort of a settlement at the moment. I don't have details on that, but I know that that is active on the assessor's plate at the moment.
I had understood that that was happening. I just had no idea of what the ballpark amount of money would be.
Yeah, I can't tell you. I don't have that number, but something what we learn soon enough if they do settle.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right. I know Anna's listening out there somewhere. Who wants to step up and play Anna for a moment?
Yeah.
I'm listening. I'm sorry.
There she is.
I am. So any further questions or discussion points? It seems like I want to say thank you to both chiefs and to Dave for coming in and discussing and clarifying their points and desires so that we have better fodder for discussion in the future. But otherwise, I think we're done for this evening unless we
When is
have something to continue with. I think it should be as soon as possible.
Okay.
Who's up for next week or the week after?
Let's see.
I'm okay next week.
next Tuesday? What you're saying?
Yes, let me, before I
that
get
would be
myself
the-
in the same sort of situation again.
That would be the 29th.
So Tuesday, the 29th would work fine for me.
At 6 o'clock,
That's it.
Anna?
I
Sorry.
don't have puppy class next week.
Okay.
So I could do 6 or 7 or anything after probably 5:30.
I'm fine with whatever's good for all of you.
I'm free. 6 o'clock is good for me.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good for 6.
Okay.
And
Well,
I
let's
won't forget
adjourn. Let's adjourn this meeting and make a continuance to continue our discussions next week, Tuesday, the 29th at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
So moves. Second.
Great.
A roll call. Eloise, yes.
Anna Crane, yes.
All right. Good night.
Good night. Thank you, guys.